Hi kids! Today I'm going to show you an experiment which will tell you the different elements of solubility using different materials. So let's start off with the first element, which is the manner of stirring. First, we need a liquid hand soap and 2 glasses of 200 ml water. And I'm going to show you what happens within the experiment. So we're gonna drop 3 drops of liquid hand soap to each of the glasses. And then I'm gonna show you the different ways of stirring the materials. Let's start first with stirring it very slowly. Look at that. I'm stirring the mixture very slowly. Look at the solute. The liquid hand soap, is it dissolved properly? And this one, I'm stirring it vigorously. What do you think is the difference between the two? Can you see the difference between the 2 glasses of mixtures? Although both of them have the same content, water and liquid hand soap. Can you see any difference based on the way I stirred them? Is there an effect of the stirring, the different ways of stirring on the materials? Now let's move on to the second one, temperature of solvent. I'm using the powdered chocolate drink. Then I poured in some hot water, 200 ml of hot water into 1 beaker. Look at that. You can still see the steam in there. And then I'm just pouring the tap water onto the next glass. Still the same amount, which is 200 ml. Still going to add some more. Okay, so that's it. So we have the same amount of water, 200 ml, although one is hot water and the other one is just tap water. Now try to see the difference in the mixtures when I use the same materials, though the temperature of the solvents of the water are different. So this one I'm going to put the first teaspoon of chocolate drink into both glasses. And then I'm going to add some 3/4 of the powdered chocolate drink. Then another one. Then next I'm going to stir both mixtures with the same manner. Unlike a while ago wherein I stirred the other one slowly and the other one fast. But this time I'm going to stir them the same way. So I'm going to stir them vigorously like that, just like that. Mix, mix, mix. Make sure they're thoroughly mixed and that the solute is dissolved thoroughly into the solvent. That's why we mix it vigorously. So that's the end product. Now let's move on to the amount of solvent. I used some water in the different beakers, but the amount of water that I used differs. I started off with 200 ml, then 150 ml, 100 ml, 75 ml, and 25 ml. And then I put the same amount of powdered soap, 1 teaspoon to each of the beaker. And then I'm going to employ the same way, the same manner of stirring into all different beakers and try to see the difference in the solubility of our powder detergent soap. Try to see if there is any difference or are they the same after I have mixed them. Does the mixtures differ or do the mixtures stay the same? Although I'm using the same kind of materials, the same kind of solute and the same kind of solvent, it only differs in the amount of the solvent. Try to observe what happened. Is there a difference? Stir it again, making sure they are dissolved. I'm trying to stir the mixture very well so that the solute is well dissolved in our solvent, although our solvents have different volume. When you talk about liquid, we call it volume. The measurement, we call it volume. So see that? Do they dissolve the same way? Or I want you to observe very carefully each of those glasses having different amounts of solvent, the same amount of solute. This time we're going to experiment on the amount of solute. We're using ink, blue ink, into different amounts of water. Different amounts, different drops of ink into each beaker. So different beaker has different amounts of the solute. Although our solute here is not solid, it's liquid, but still we call it solute because it's the one that we should try to dissolve in this experiment. So the ink is our solute, the water is our solvent. If you can see very well, the solvent has the same volume. Our solvent is the same volume, 200 ml. And then the manner of stirring, we just stir it slowly. Now I think you can see the difference in the shades of blue that we're able to produce with the different amounts of solute we put in each glass, in each beaker. Now let's move on to the nature of solute and solvent. As you can see, I am putting in some 200 ml of tap water into each beaker, same amount of water. And then later on, we're going to put same amount of solute to each beaker, but different kinds of solute. Okay. I want you to observe very carefully what happens to our mixtures when we add in our different solutes. So we start with the enamel paint. You can see that enamel paint is a kind of paint that is oil-based. So try to see what happens when we try to mix the enamel paint into our glass, our beaker of water. And then next, we're going to use our latex paint, which is water-based, and we're going to try to put it into our beaker of water. Let's try to observe, let's try to see what happens to this mixture. Is there going to be a difference between the two mixtures as we try to stir their solute into its solvent, or would they be the same? Try to see. Look at that. Look at our first beaker having our enamel paint. You can still see the granules of the enamel paint not thoroughly dissolved in the water. They are just suspended there. Well, in this one, looks like milk. Like the paint is dissolved in the water as we mix them together. So now you can see very well the difference between the two. So if you have enamel paint and you want it less sticky or less viscous, you cannot add water into it. But for latex paint, and if you want your latex paint to be less sticky, you can just add in water and stir it well. You can have paint with good texture when you add in